Well, let's get more on this now. We're joined by political analyst Ayesha Kajee, and she's in Durban. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Now, Zuma's survived 7 no-confidence votes so far. Will this one be any different?
Well, it's the 8th of the 8th today, and it's his 8th no-confidence vote. So people who speak Afrikaans are hoping to get him 8, which means out. That's the pun making the rounds in South Africa at the moment. Given that this is a secret ballot, unlike the other 7, there is a possibility that we may be surprised and Mr. Zuma might actually be voted out, particularly as just now in Parliament there was a call for the cameras in the parliamentary chamber to be switched off so that the secret ballot could be assured.
Now, for that no-confidence vote to pass, I believe it needs 50 ANC MPs out of the 249 to vote against the president. So what would the future of the ANC be after this vote, do you think?
Well, the ANC is already deeply divided, as is the country. So the future of the ANC will depend on whether those who are left behind after this vote, whether it passes or not, but it really will depend on whether those who are still within the ANC can rebuild it from within. And that is going to be a mammoth task because many South Africans have lost confidence in the party.
And in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of South Africa's future and its economy, will this result have an impact on that?
Undoubtedly it will. If the no-confidence motion passes, I think the economy will actually start to strengthen a little bit. Certainly we'll see the rand start to strengthen, and that will be encouraging for South Africans. But whether this will pass or not, I think right now is the big question. There is an outside chance. I, for one, will be very, very surprised, given that this was a motion brought by the opposition and that opposition party is one that has its roots, unfortunately, in the apartheid era. Given that many ANC MPs, even those who want to get Mr. Zuma out, may be unwilling to vote against him. Also, despite it being a secret ballot, there are still fears that with the party whip system in place, people who vote against Mr. Zuma, if the no-confidence motion doesn't pass, will then be punished. There'll be punitive measures against them, perhaps to the extent of ousting them from the party.
So potentially punitive members for the MPs who vote against Zuma. Well, what about Zuma himself? Because if he holds on to his hat, if you like, he's resigning soon anyway, isn't he?
Yes, but there's still time to loot the Treasury. There's still time to ensure that all the assets he's moved offshore are safe and secure and really out of reach of any repercussions once he's out of office, any attempts to actually get the money back, get those assets back into South Africa, because the public purse has been looted tremendously, as you probably know, over the last few years.
You're a political analyst. What do you think the outside world, the region, and South Africa's friends and foes think about what's going on with the president right now?
Well, it depends on which parts of the region you're speaking about. I think people like Mr. Mugabe in Zimbabwe will be looking at this vote very, very closely because in concert with Mr. Zuma, Mr. Mugabe himself has had many attempts to oust him and is still surviving. And thus far, Mr. Zuma has proven to be the Teflon man. You know, he's been unbreakable. So I think people like Mr. Mugabe will be watching with interest. Other people in the region, perhaps the Botswanans, the Malawians, the Zambians, will be watching to see whether South Africa's democracy is going to stand this test, in the sense that, you know, here is the sitting president. We have had a sitting president ousted before from within the party, but certainly not from within the National Assembly. So it will be a litmus test in many ways for South Africa's democracy, for the institutions of democracy, and also it may indeed have negative repercussions in the long term, given that Parliament is meant to be in most of its working an open and transparent system. Of course, the intimidation, both covert and overt, that has led up to this vote, are seeing many people defend the necessity for a secret ballot. But whether that then forms a precedent in legal terms for other issues, perhaps not so, not so significant issues, but significant certainly to sectors of the populations, things that have a moral impact, votes, for example, on the death penalty, or on gay partnerships, or on abortion rights. Those kinds of votes may then also be held in camera, and that is not what an accountable and democratic system ultimately needs as a general rule.